I'm just going to jump into the topic. This was something that I talked about in the Plexus cruise last week. We had a couple of different times where we had sessions where everybody gathered, and this was my topic for the evening. We have 12 children, and we have 6 sons and 6 daughters. And so those boys, when they were younger, on weekends, especially like when cousins would come over, they would watch B-rated karate movies, like the old black and white kind where, they dubbed the English. And so the guy's mouth moves, blah, 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 and then all he said is, "Yes, master," that kind of movie. And now that our youngest son is a sophomore, we only have the 4 youngest girls at home, and they like to watch mermaid movies. And so they get on Netflix, and there's a series called Mako Mermaids. They came out with a new season, and I'm the mean mom. I made them wait until we left for convention before they could watch that new season. But on this new season, there is a Chinese mermaid that came from China, and when she does her mermaid magic, she does karate. So I just think it's funny that, the girls are also watching karate stuff. So I guess it just runs in the family. But, when we think of karate, we often think of the sensei getting a block of wood and karate chopping through it. And they break through a block of wood. And so what I want to talk to you about tonight is a karate chop for success. And that is breaking through what's blocking you. Everything I teach, everything I'm going to talk about is things that I've been challenged by and things that I've learned or I'm still learning. And so everything I tell you not to do, I've done it. So, and I don't want this to get too heavy, but there might be some things that I talk about tonight that really strike your heart, and that's okay because I've prayed over this session and I feel like, I'm going to just tell you what's on my heart. Many of us, when we join Plexus, we join with big dreams, and that's okay. That's awesome. We need to have dreams. But we tend to think, okay, I'm going to be silver and then gold and senior gold and just work through, all the ranks. And then reality hits, and we might get to a place where we kind of get stuck, and it's not as easy as we thought, or we can't figure out why we're not moving ahead. And so getting stuck in our Plexus business or our rank are the kinds of things that we're going to look at tonight. There are 3 blockers and 2 beliefs that I'm going to talk about. The first blocker is blaming. We might find it really easy to blame our family, blame our personality. For blaming our family, we might blame our kids. Well, it's summer and the kids are all home and I'm so busy and my kids won't leave me alone and my kids do this and that. I've got too many kids or whatever. Or we might blame our spouse and say, well, they're not supporting me enough. Or we might blame our extended family because they make fun of you or they're not supportive or they think you're crazy. So that's one way that we might be blaming and not even realizing it. Another thing is that we might blame our personality. Just say, I'm not a people person. I'm too shy. I'm quiet. That's just not me. Or we might blame our circumstances, that feel like we have it harder, that I don't have an office or, I've got all, a sick kid, whatever. We just can blame things, look around, and that blaming turns into excuses. And we actually end up telling ourselves stories. We make up stories to explain and justify things. We can look around and see others in the same situation that we have that are succeeding. And so then we have to find a reason to explain why we're not. And we don't do this on purpose. I mean, we don't set out to do it. We kind of subconsciously do it. Stories serve a purpose in our life, whether it's to help us feel better about ourselves. I had a pretty painful childhood, and I told myself a story that no one ever takes care of me, that I always have to take care of myself. And as a child, that story that I told myself was a survival story. It helped me explain the world and survive. But as an adult with 12 children and their spouses and kids that love me and a husband who loves me, that story doesn't serve me anymore. But if I keep living like I believe that story, that nobody's going to take care of me, then that's a problem, because that story is not true. It's just a story. And so we need to ask ourselves, what stories am I making up about my life and about my business? Are we telling ourselves stories like, well, the back office, over the last few months, my business hasn't grown because we had all those back office issues. Well, for every person who is complaining about the back office, I can show you others who managed to rank up during the back office mess. And it was a mess. I mean, it was challenging. I will stack my hours on hold with customer service against anybody's. So I get that. But we get in trouble when we point our finger and say, this is why I haven't ranked up, because of the back office. Another thing that's really easy to do is to blame our team and think, well, if they would just start doing something, or, what's wrong with them? Why aren't they building or whatever? When, I hate to tell you this, but as a leader, your team will mirror what you do. We can't escape it. It's that sowing and reaping principle. Something about it is that whatever's going on with us, that's what our team's going to do. And we need to be the best ambassador on our team. We cannot expect them to do anything that we're not willing to do. And so that blaming will just keep us stuck because we're not taking responsibility. Successful people take responsibility and they look for solutions, not focusing on blaming and trying to get out of this responsibility. Successful people take responsibility across the board. The second blocker is unforgiveness. I'm going to ask you, are you offended and bitter about something? Are you harboring unforgiveness? And that doesn't have to be in Plexus. It could be any area of life, but it could be in Plexus. Maybe you feel like your upline hasn't been as supportive as they could have been, or maybe, someone didn't do for you what they could have done, or someone took an ambassador, whatever. There's a lot of scenarios that you could be harboring some unforgiveness. And unforgiveness blocks blessings. When we are living in unforgiveness, it's like we drink poison and we hope it kills someone else. It's almost like we think we're punishing them by not forgiving them. Most of the time, that other person, they don't have a clue and they're just going right on with their life. And we're the ones choking the good things out of our lives with unforgiveness. And the Bible says, forgive and you shall be forgiven. And so be free of that and don't carry that burden. And this is not meant to be, this big psychological thing tonight, but this is something to be aware. Awareness is the first step in change. And so that's something to think about. If you're stuck, if you feel like you're being blocked, it's something to break through is forgiveness. Another blocker is jealousy and judging. And I put those together because they're very similar. We look at someone else and think, well, that's fine for her. We might look at a diamond, or we might look at someone else whose business is growing faster and think, well, it was easy for her. She signed up a rock star. Or we might think, well, it was easy for her because she already had a lot of Facebook friends. And we feel jealous, and it's like a sick feeling in the pit of your stomach, and we might judge people. How many of us, we have to admit, have had the thought of maybe some diamonds that we see and think, well, they're young and blonde and beautiful, like they had it easier. And it's comparison is a sick feeling. It takes all the fun out of this business, and it's just discouraging. But here's the kicker, that whatever we're jealous of and what we judge when we say, well, they, whatever our thoughts are about somebody else, is that we will not bring that into our own life. We will not attract that into our own business if we're judging it in other people. So if we are saying, well, sure, they're a diamond, they got a rock star. So our mind is judging having a rock star. And so our mind will make sure we don't get one because we're judging somebody else for it. And we might think that, well, I really want a rock star. And so it's almost like we're mad because they got one and we didn't. And when I say rock star, I mean a business builder who worked really fast. That's what I mean. Everybody's a rock star. But I mean someone who worked fast and built big. So we think, I really want that and I'm mad because they got it and I didn't. But actually what happens is when we judge it in other people, we're not going to attract it because we're repelling it because of the way we're thinking about it. And negativity about it won't attract it. And it's a spiritual principle. It is not woo-woo, new agey stuff. It's how the world works. The things that are not seen, there's something to it. I don't pretend to have the answers, but that's kind of a wake-up call, because it's really easy when we feel like we're in lack and someone else, it's easy even to feel like if someone else succeeds, then there's not enough left for me. Thinking that, well, there's going to be too many diamonds or whatever you're going to think. But someone else's success is not our failure. And there's plenty for everybody. There is plenty of customers. There's plenty of jewel positions. There's plenty of money for everybody. And so what we really need to do is be grateful for what we have and where we are. The antidote to that unforgiveness and jealousy and judging is gratefulness. Because what we're really thinking is that God doesn't have enough for us. When we see what someone else has, we're not confident in his plan for us, and we're not grateful for what we have, and so more won't come in. I have really been disciplining myself to have several minutes of gratefulness as my very first waking thoughts, and then the last thing I think before I go to sleep. So it's almost like when my eyes, you first start stirring around, the room's still dark, I'm immediately disciplining myself to start thinking what I'm thankful for. And it's very simple things, and it might be the same thing every day, like my husband and my children, and I think of things that happened the day before, and it actually affects my day. I'm grateful for my business and for my team and things like that. And it really shifts your thinking from, okay, this is what I got to do today kind of stuff, instead to open your eyes and be grateful. And gratefulness, I don't know how it works, but it brings in more of what you're grateful for. You can kind of think of it as your own children, that if you gave them something and they went, oh man, I wanted the pink one, and you'd think, well, I'm not giving you another one. You wouldn't, you naturally as a human wouldn't appreciate that. And so I just wonder if that's how the world works, that as we're grateful, then we get more and more. Because when you have a child who just loves it and they're so excited about this little thing that you gave them, it just makes you want to do more for them. And we're made in the image of God. And it could be that, why would God give us more if we're not grateful for what we have? Why would God make us a ruby if we're not grateful to be gold? We get it turned around in our minds. And so being grateful gets your eyes off of, how far you have to go, or, discouragement about where you are. And it keeps you in the present and just opens the doors. When you're a grateful person, think about people that don't have a bad thing to say, and they always find grateful things, and they're joyful. Those are the people you want to be around. And the rock star ambassadors that are out there in the world are going to want to be on your team if you're the grateful, positive person who is not bitter and unforgiving and judging, but you are open and loving and forgiving. So that's why you're going to attract that, because other people feel that. We feel it in other people. Think about really old people, that have lived a life, and by the time they get really old, what they've lived is really strong in them. And so you have bitter old people who are very selfish and self-focused, and it's all about them. And then you have old people that everybody loves because they're happy and they've served other people. It's very evident as the older they get. Well, it's the same for us now. Everybody can see what we are, and so that's why we want to continue to make sure there's nothing there that's going to repel basically repel success. We have to be better people. That's the awesome thing about network marketing. It requires us to become better people to succeed in this business. We have to get over our stuff. We have to get over ourselves and our fears to do this business. We have to learn to serve other people and make it about them instead of us to do well in this business. I think that's a genius business model. I'm glad I'm in it. I'm grateful for network marketing, and I never thought I'd say that. Okay, so we've talked about 3 blockers, and that was blaming, unforgiveness, and jealousy and judging. And now we're going to talk about 2 beliefs that can block us. The first belief area is about money and business. I'll put those together. This is the truth. Generally, people prosper when they live decently and honorably among others. The more wealth we create, the more others benefit. And I'm going to ask everybody on this Zoom tonight, you do want more money, don't you? Don't be embarrassed to admit that you want more money, because the more money you want, the more willing you'll be to work and do things for countless people. And that's how we make money. People only give you money when you give them a service or a product, something that gives them value. That's how the world works. People exchange money for things of value or service. And so when you say you want to make more money, what you're really saying is, I want to serve more people and I want to help more people. We have it turned around. We think when we want more money, we're being selfish. The last time I checked, the best way to help poor people is to not be one of them. And I've been a poor people. So I know, the times when money was the tightest, we were thinking more about ourselves and how we're going to do it. And we can't give to anybody because we need all this. But when we have more money, it's like, sure, here's some money. This is not to toot my horn, but when we were going through security to go to fly to Orlando for our cruise last week, there were some military guys in front of us. They were young guys out on their first leave after boot camp, and they were all excited. And you could tell they were very young and probably had not really been places much. And the guy in front of us, I guess it was his first flight, because he packed full-size bottles of shampoo and body wash, like these giant bags, in his carry-on. And so, the TSA is going, no, and they were throwing this stuff in the trash. I mean, they were being nice about it, but they had no choice. And you could tell the guy, he was like crestfallen because all his stuff was getting thrown away. And so after we got through security on the other side, I reached in my purse and I got like a 20 out, and I just handed it to him. I said, here, you go buy you some new stuff to replace what got thrown away. And thank you for serving our country. And there was a time in my life not long ago when there's no way I could have given somebody else a $20 bill because I needed it just to eat on the trip or something. And so you can see what a blessing it is to others for us to have more money. The thing about this Plexus business is we don't have to invent anything. We don't have to get a storefront. We don't even have to harvest stevia leaves. We don't have to try to get slim powder in those little sticks. We don't have to pour it in there, or anything. It is all done for us. This is an easy business. Pretty much what we have to do is get over ourselves to do well at this business. But gaining wealth is actually about gaining wisdom. And I love what Sonia Dudley says about, we're the ones that should have a lot of money because we'll do good things with it. So since we're all good people, let's go make a lot of money so that the evil people don't get it. So don't let the thought about not deserving money or that money is evil, those are things you need to work on. Need to change your beliefs about money. If you think it's selfish or evil to have money, or that people who get it have done things wrong or something, that are some serious. If you have judgments against the wealthy, then you're not going to be one of those, because your subconscious will make sure you don't become wealthy because you're judging it and you think it's wrong and bad. And so you're going to make sure you're not one of them. So those are things to be aware of and work on. If you judge people that you know that have a lot of money, you see someone driving a Lexus and you judge them for it, then you're going to make sure you don't ever drive one. It's been a real interesting shift for me to go from driving old vehicles to driving a Lexus. I live in a part of Oklahoma City. It's very interesting that God moved us here because the suburb that I live in is a very affluent area. We live across the road from this golf course exclusive neighborhood. Of course, there's a big wall between us and them, but we actually live in the country across the street next to a cow field. But the town I live in is affluent, and it's interesting that I drive a Lexus now, and so I kind of can reach out to those people because, but sometimes it's just funny to think if they only knew the story. But I'm super grateful for the Lexus that I'm driving. And so we don't know people's story when we judge them. And so we just got to be really careful what we're judging because we won't get any if we're judging it. So that's another thing about that. Okay, about money. Okay, so the second belief besides, oh, and let me just talk one more thing about business. You know, our culture has demonized business. You know, the bad guys are always the corporate guys, the businessmen. You know, business is evil. And, you know, you have all these people who are saying, you know, that business is bad. Well, you know what? Businesses do a lot of good. They employ a lot of people. The vast majority of people who are wealthy have served people and are honest. That's how they got the money. Sure, there's bad people out there, but there's bad people that are in church. I mean, that's not a reason to stereotype all business as bad. Network marketing has a stigma that is undeserved. I mean, and thankfully it's changing. I believe in this generation, especially, it's really changing. And some of these great people like Dave Ramsey and, you know, people that say it's a great business model, that helps. But anyway, we just got to be really careful the things that we're judging because we won't get any of it if we do. And then, okay, so we talked about 3 blockers, and that was blaming, unforgiveness, and then jealousy and judging, and then 2 beliefs, one about money and business, and the second one is about ourselves. You know, people go to seminars, they get on Zooms, they get in groups, and they're always looking for a secret. If I can just figure out the right thing to say on Facebook, then my business is going to explode. Or they think that there's some tip or some way to word a private message, and that's going to be the secret that finally catapults them to emerald. But then they don't look inside themselves. And I guarantee you that 90% of this business is in our head. What do we say to ourselves, and what do we say about ourselves? You listen, ask God to turn up the volume. You listen to the kinds of things that you say about yourself and that you speak about your business and that you speak over your team. That's a really good way to get stuck, is to talk bad about your team or about yourself or your business. Saying stuff like, talking about how you're stuck, talking about how you don't have any rock stars, talking about my team's not doing anything. You're speaking that. You're creating that by what you speak. And even if you think that is not true, that's how it works. And I couldn't explain it, but it's the truth. And so how about instead you start speaking life over your team and your business and start being excited. I know many of us have listened to the call that Fallon Black did with Sonia Dudley when she talked about how she started saying, I have the fastest growing team in Plexus. And at the time she did not, but she still spoke it and it came true. And she spoke it in a way that created emotion and was exciting. So it wasn't, I have the fastest growing team in Plexus. I have the fastest growing. That's not how she did it. It's an exciting and believing it that it's around the corner. It's having faith. It's having faith. That's all it is. Our thoughts turn into attitudes and beliefs, and they turn into actions. Our thoughts affect that. Our thoughts secrete chemicals that affect the DNA in our cells. That is a scientifically proven fact. Fortunately, There's something called neuroplasticity, and that's kind of like you can do brain surgery on yourself and you can rewire your thoughts. You have the power to change and rewire your brain. And the Bible talks about this all over. It says, take every thought captive. It says to renew your mind. I know I've said this before, but, before the Tower of Babel, before the Lord struck it down, he said, nothing they have imagined in their hearts will be too hard for them. In Romans, it says that the Lord speaks the things that are not as though they were. And we are created in his image. And so I believe that creative power we have, we just use a tiny bit of it. Or we think it doesn't matter what we say. We think we have the luxury of complaining. We have the luxury of talking negatively about our business and about ourselves. And so that's what happens, because we move towards what we think about. We move towards what we speak. Even the power of our imagination. I just said about saying nothing they have imagined in their hearts. What kinds of things do you imagine about your business? Are you constantly thinking about the white lines in your back office, or the fact that nobody came to your opportunity meeting? Are you focusing only on the discouraging things and the things that you see with your eyes? Or are you imagining the good things? It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It's true. I mean, as far as the principles of this. But imagining seeing a back office with a ton of blue lines and imagining that Lexus in the driveway, that's something else I do before bed, is to think about the things that I'm moving towards. A black Lexus in the driveway, a diamond Lexus. I have visual reminders. Let's see. I've got several of these on my desk. They're little diamond thingies that I have on my desk. My little girl, my 10-year-old, drew me a picture that has a diamond, and she wrote "Ever Diamond" on it. It was just the cutest little picture, and I have it on my bulletin board, because that's the kinds of things that I want to fill my mind with. The things that are not, that as though they were. And so pay attention to what you're imagining and what you're thinking about. Imagination is like visual pictures. It's like watching a movie in your mind, because you're seeing images and you're creating scenarios. It's like you're watching a movie in your mind. And so if you're constantly only watching, horror movies about your business, then that's what you're going to get. I mean, it may sound silly, but if I'm telling you, I have read so many personal development books and success books from very successful people, and it's a recurring theme. Over and over, successful people say to do this, to use your imagination, to imagine what you want. And, there's a saying that if you work on yourself more than anything else in your business, you'll be unusually successful. And I truly believe that is the truth, because the blocks, the things that are blocking us in our business are not usually a concrete block. It's not a real wooden block. It's not a real thing as much as it is what goes on inside us with blaming other people, or being unforgiving, or jealousy and judging, not believing in ourselves, not saying all the time that, well, I don't really believe in myself. Many, many, many people say that, and it's probably true, but they say it over and over and over. I said it for like 2 years, the first 2 years of this business. I would say, well, the area I struggle with the most is not believing in myself. I really try to avoid using the word struggle. I might use the word challenge, but what we speak reveals what's in our minds. And so if we're constantly labeling things a struggle, I really struggle with talking to people. I struggle, with anything we say, then we're creating that. We're going to think of it as struggle. and it will block us. And so instead, a challenge sounds like, I'm going to meet the challenge and overcome that challenge. That's a much better word. But it can become a crutch, and it becomes our identity when we say it all the time. When we talk all the time about, I don't believe in myself, we don't even try to get out of that. We don't even try to move beyond that and not do that anymore because we say it all the time. There's a verse, I guess I should have looked it up before we got on here. I've been reading in Ephesians for like the last year, and I think it's in Ephesians 4 or 5, and it talks about being done now with it. It was talking about knowing, leaving behind things you used to do or that you used to think and being done now with it. And that jumped out at me because to repent means to change the way we think. And so we need to repent of not believing in ourselves and quit saying it and quit thinking it and quit making it our identity. Because we were born with all the self-confidence in the world and believing in ourselves and loving ourselves when we were babies. We were born. Toddlers don't care what they look like, what their hair looks like. They don't care what their voice sounds like. They just love life and do everything. Hopefully, if they've had a halfway decent upbringing, but they set about learning not to believe in themselves because of all the things they're told and all the things they experience. And God, man, He loves us, and He wants us to succeed in this business. And it's almost like we push away, no, I don't believe in myself. And I'm sure God's saying, enough already with the not believing in yourself, I just can't, in my wildest imagination, think that God is up there saying, well, I hope you don't ever get past silver. I mean, it's not Him thinking that about us. We're doing it to ourselves because we keep telling ourselves that we're not good enough and we're not enough and we don't believe in ourselves, and it's stories we're telling ourselves. And I don't expect that this call is going to, it's a lifelong process. So it's not like you're going to get off this call and say, okay, I believe in myself. There are turning points. I think there are real, we make a big leap in personal growth, and awareness is the first step in that. And so maybe this call is going to do a lot for you. I hope it does, because I've really prayed over that. And, but I just want you to start that process of recognizing when you're saying things like, I don't believe in myself, or my business is slow, or my team's the pits, or whatever it is, the things you're saying and believing. And you're making a decision. You're not hoping. Hope is not a business strategy, because whatever we're thinking and speaking is going to affect our actions and what we do. And so that's what I want to leave you with tonight is that awareness that if the blockers like blaming and blaming others around us, blaming our circumstances, being unforgiving for offenses, things that have happened to you, being jealous, judging other people, especially successful people, having those beliefs about money and business or beliefs about ourselves, that starting that awareness about those things and quit making the excuses, being done now with it, and it will transform your business and it'll transform your life. I promise you, whenever in this business, because I've been in the business about 2 years and 3 months, I think, or 3 or 4 months, that when I have gotten to a rank and stayed there longer than I planned, it's been because I had some processing to do and I had some personal growth to do to get over myself and to become a better person and correct some beliefs and things like that. And I love that this business forces us to do that. God uses it, like He uses wanting to rank up or wanting to make more money as bait because we want that thing. So we'll follow it like bait. And in the meantime, he uses that to do things in our lives that he wanted to do. And so he's using this business as a tool, to accomplish his purposes in us. And that's awesome. So that's what I want to leave you with tonight. I actually, wouldn't mind having some Q&A. I did say that this would be a longer Zoom tonight. And so I'm happy to, if you want to have a question about anything about this topic, not really about the back office or something, let's keep it on this topic. But if somebody has a question, and if not, we'll go ahead and let you go. But if you want to unmute yourself and ask something, I'd be happy to answer. Everybody may be too scared because this was kind of heavy, so.
Charlotte, I have something that's not really a question, but something that somebody mentioned to me this last week. And you're talking about being thankful and grateful. And they actually said that you can't have thankfulness and fear emotion at the exact same time. I guess our brain doesn't process that. So it's just a good thing to remember if you are feeling like me, often very fearful, working the business or dealing with people, is to start being thankful, like you're saying, or grateful, to help counteract some of that fear.
That is awesome. And action cures fear also. But I believe that, because whenever I have started, will get stressed or fearful, if I start thinking about what I'm grateful for or start praying, then it dissipates, and I love that. I love that you can't feel fear and gratefulness at the same time. Okay, someone's asking something in the chat. Let me go down here. Does saying positive things instead of speaking negatively really change one's reality? I absolutely believe that it does. Absolutely. Because our circumstances can be the same, whether we're speaking positively or negatively, but our perspective is different. And so we react different, and we're a different person. And so it does change the reality. For instance, I'm trying to think of an example. I remember when some of my boys were younger, they had some pretty bad asthma and life-threatening sometimes, and we're in the hospital. And I remember being in the hospital with one of my toddlers and just longing for a normal day, wanting my toddler to go home and get into the trash and, splash in the toilet and things like that. And so, whereas earlier that day, that might have been driving me crazy. And maybe the same things would happen, but I changed and my perspective changed. And so I would have a joyful outlook on it rather than a negative, the kind of thing that just discourages you and overwhelms you. I really believe that it calls different things in to be grateful, that different things come into your life when you're grateful, that it really does change reality. I can't even explain it. I am a deeply religious and spiritual person. My husband's a pastor, and so I am not a New Age person. I'm not very traditional, conservative, probably compared to a lot of people. But the older I get, I'm 56. I've lived a lot of life, maybe crammed more than a lot of people in since I have 12 children. But I've just seen it over and over, that when I choose, because it does take a choice, because we don't naturally go to gratefulness, but when we choose to be grateful, it changes how things happen, changes what it brings into our life.
Charlotte, I would add to that too, that when we're doing that, being grateful and practicing that in our lives, like you said earlier, it attracts the stuff that we want to have in our lives, as opposed to when we're speaking negative things, that attracts equal negative things. And so I think that kind of influences that a little bit as well. When we're speaking life into our kids even into their attitudes and things, then I can see that changing in them, because that's what I'm speaking into them, instead of, man, you're messing up all the time. Then they mess up all the time, kind of one of those kind of things. So I don't know if that helps.
Okay, something very interesting that I've noticed, because I'm in a Jules Facebook group, and someone asked yesterday about, what can I do? My leaders are all just so discouraged with their stagnant business this summer. And I'm thinking, my team is rocking and rolling. I mean, like, the sale's over and we're still going, And I thought about how I have been practicing this gratefulness for probably a couple of months. I really have disciplined myself, and look what's happening on my team. I believe it's a result of that, because I've worked through some things, some issues that I was really challenged by, and I'm really practicing gratefulness, and I feel like it's calling in. I mean, our team, some of our newest ambassadors or people who joined 2 years ago are being rock stars, like building fast and amazing. And I believe it's a direct result of being grateful, of practicing gratefulness. So, okay, someone said, when did you experience significant change in your business, and what was the catalyst? It's happened several times, and the catalyst has been when I worked through my issues, and when I chose to be grateful, and when I changed how I thought about things, quit judging. I'll be vulnerable with you and talk about something. There was, my mom passed away in early February, and so that's caused me to work through a lot of things. And I had some emotions and expectations of someone that were not being met, I guess. And I was very kind of not obsessed. It just really affected me. I shed many tears over it until a friend was texting me, so it wasn't like a big conversation. And she asked me, do you think that some of this has to do with you projecting your mom into the situation? So you're looking for something, a blessing and approval, that it's like you're putting that person in your mom's place. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, because I realized, yes, that's what I was doing. I had this person in an authority position in my mind, and they weren't doing things that I thought they should be. And it was hurting my feelings and stuff. And I realized it was because it was almost like I was expecting that person to be my mom. Does that make sense? I know there's like a psychological thing. But that was a huge breakthrough for me, and I saw a difference in my business. So if that makes sense, it's happened over and over in this business. I've gotten kind of stuck, and then I have to work through some things, and then I have new understanding, or I change my attitude and my thoughts, and then move forward. So I think that our journeys are all different in this business, because we all have different things to work on. And we end up really ready for that next position because we've done the work, if that makes sense. So anyway, if anybody else has anything else? This has been kind of a different topic. Okay, someone says, it sounds like change occurred when you made a decision to make it change. And to a certain extent, that's true. We have to have the awareness of what we're doing, awareness of the thinking, and, because we don't do it on purpose. We have to realize, oh, I'm doing this thing. And then definitely that's where change happens. Someone said, okay, network marketing is personal growth with a paycheck. Is it all really about personal growth? Absolutely. It is about personal growth, because because everything we think, our level of maturity, our level of confidence, our level of what we think about ourselves will totally affect our business. It'll affect how we come across to people, about how we work with people. I can't overestimate the importance of personal growth, because pretty much when someone is stuck in their business, it's because of personal growth issues. And it's not bad. It's not wrong. You're not in trouble or something. It's just that someone is blocking themselves because they need some personal growth. And you know, what an awesome business that requires us to do it. Because otherwise, if I wasn't in Plexus, I would still be out over here having these issues, because I wouldn't have had to been forced to deal with them. And so what a great business that requires us to become better people, and it digs up stuff that we didn't know was there, and then we become better people. You know, my husband, bless his heart, he's been married to me for 36 years, and he had a pretty normal childhood, and I did not. And so he has worked with me over the years in dealing with things. And on the cruise, you know, I spoke a couple of times and talked to people and encouraged other people on the cruise. And when we came home, he said, "You behave like a diamond on the cruise." And it really shifted something in me, because I came home and I thought, you know what? I did. And so I know diamond is around the corner. I can feel it. It's going to be here soon. And it is anyway, I know, but I guess it dawned on me, for him to see that in me and to realize that was truth. That was a shift for me. And so, and I want to tell you guys that are here on the Zoom, on that cruise, I didn't have internet. I kept trying on my phone. I kept trying to read my back office, and I would click detailed genealogy and nothing would happen. I mean, so I couldn't even check, and I wasn't getting very many emails, you know, of new ambassadors. And I thought, oh man, they're not, you know, there's nothing I could do. Well, Thursday night, I finally got into my back office, and I was stunned to see how hard all of you were working. And it was just joyful to see all these people getting their very first new ambassador, or people that I knew, you know, had been working really hard, to see that they had signed up several people. Do you realize that this month our team has already added over 200 people? It's going to be a record month for our team. Our previous record was last July. We added 225, but it's only the 14th, and we've already added that many people. And so I was just so proud of all of you, because I saw everybody working together and excited and keeping each other accountable. I saw some chats going on, and it was like, I mean, I cried when I saw that. And it was not about the money or the points or any of that stuff. It was about seeing you all be leaders. I told you I'm in the Jules group, so I see other leaders and what's going on in their teams. And I am so grateful for you guys, because we have a drama-free team of leaders. You guys are not asking me to hold your hand all the time and all that stuff. I mean, I'm happy, thrilled to help you. And I hope I do. I hope I do things for you that does help you, because that's my passion. But just to see you all rise up and build your businesses, and just the momentum and the excitement on our team right now, it's priceless. Because it just think about your diamond documentary someday. You're going to have all these people that helped you get there, and it's going to be all of us with our sidelines and stuff. So it's just amazing. But I just want to tell you all how proud I am of you for how things are going this month for our team. It's really, really amazing, and I'm thrilled. And I see all you guys. Okay, I better quit. But thank you for joining me tonight. And I know, we'll have this recording up for the world to see. So I don't know if that's going to be a good thing, but anyway, but thank you so much for all that you do. And I just am so thrilled for what is ahead for all of you, because if you keep hanging in there, keep doing the personal growth. I'm seeing people who have been ambassadors for a couple of years, and things are taking off. The train is leaving the station, and it's because they've hung in there and done the personal growth, and then it's paying off. And so definitely worth hanging in there and keep working. So, oh, Julie raised her hand. Julie, if you can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Just a huge thank you, Charlotte. You have just been a huge supporter and an encourager. And I just really personally just want to say thank you and blessings to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. That means a lot. It does. So I think we should all have a group hug. Yeah. Okay. Well, good night, everybody. And I'll see you in the groups. And it's just so fun to see everybody. I tell you that every time we do a Zoom, I love seeing everybody. And I'll keep saying it because it's true. So, okay. Good night, everybody.